Good morning, everyone. So I want to speak about the gaze of a dove, because in Shir Shirim it speaks about the love of Hashem to the Jewish people as seeing our eyes as dove eyes. Okay, that's a real thing. I didn't make it up. It's Shir Shirim 115. It says, Song of Songs, Hine Yofa Rayosi Hinok Yofa Anayach Yenim. And you are fair, my darling. You are fair with your dove-like eyes. Okay, I think there's probably other verses in here that are more good morning. I think there are other verses in here. I don't think I found the best source. I think it was actually missourced in the reference I found for it. But there's a beautiful Rashi. I didn't have time to look for more sources right now, okay? So I just want to read this Rashi to you because it's beautiful, and it probably even quotes the other places it occurs, but it quotes some interesting verses, and it describes this incredible love that is at the core, I think, of today's Tanya. And then I want to somehow see the connection with that, with what I'm really into today, which is the Me'or Einayim, that I want to write about. I think today and the next day I have to really delve into that intensely to understand it, because that's the Rebbe's source for where the idea of Hisgalus Mashiach and Bias Mashiach is going to first take place in the individual. You're going to have your Nitzitz Mashiach revealed, the spark of the Messiah in you revealed, and you're going to be not only revealed as, the essence of your soul revealed in you, ultimately, or there's a process, of course, that's going to happen, but also something that I think has to be equivalent to Bias Mashiach, Kipshutai, the simple meaning of the arrival of Mashiach, which means there's going to be a king on a throne in Jerusalem. So there's going to be an aspect of that revealed in us too, and I think that's why the Rebbe uses both terms there in sources that I'm going to probably quote and re-quote forevermore in writing. I'm not the guy that memorizes all these things. There's lots of people who do that. It's fancy footwork. I love it. I mean, that's just who they are. Okay, so Rashi comments on this beautiful verse. How fair are you with your dove-like eyes? Good morning. How fair are you with your dove-like eyes? I don't think this is the best. Like I said, I think there's another verse that's more explicit about gazing into each other's eyes. But this one's also very, maybe, it's better to find this one instead of the other one. Because now we're going to bring out something that probably not the main source. I don't know, it might be. It says, behold, you are comely, my beloved. Okay? My beloved was ashamed of my going astray. I guess it's from first person. I was ashamed. Oh, I didn't see the word I because it had a big 53 beside. I was ashamed of my going astray, but he encouraged me with appeasing words, like saying, I have forgiven because of your words, and you are most fair, for your eyes are like doves. That is, what does it mean your eyes are like doves? Okay? This is awesome. This is Rashi. A bride whose eyes are ugly. Remember, it says that about Leah, her eyes were dim. Her entire body requires examination, it says. If her eyes are not beautiful, check her out. She might be lacking beauty elsewhere. Really, you should look to the eyes for beauty. Eyes should be the reflection of beauty in someone. That's the first place you look. But if you don't see beauty there and you're looking for shidduch, I guess it's talking about a bride. Okay? Someone who's even further along the stage. Are you going to commit yourself now? But do you find this person attractive? So, the advice here that Rashi brings, it's probably from Medrash, a bride whose eyes are ugly, you better check out the rest of her. But she whose eyes are beautiful, her body requires no examination. The allegorical meaning is, I forgave you for your iniquity, and behold, you are fair with, let us do, and you are fair with, let us hear, Na'aseh v'nishma. Fair with the deeds of your forefathers and fair with your own deeds, because, it goes on, Rashi's like getting you on the whole drama, because, the next Rashi, your eyes are like doves, he quotes the line from the verse, there are righteous among you who cling to me like a dove. that once it recognizes its mate, okay, so the person finds the Besherter. Once it happens, the dove does not allow him to mate with another. It says him in this translation, okay? I could go to the original, but I'll lose my place and it'll be a mess. The gazing of doves is the bride. Okay, here's the analogy to the thing. If she has beautiful eyes, she doesn't let him stray because she's gazing at him. Look at my haiku from yesterday. It's exactly this idea. It's exactly what I wanted to convey. But here, Baruch Hashem, I found a source in Tanakh and the Rashi on this, and it's a medrash, I'm sure. So that was the interpretation of it. He didn't give you the flip side of it if you're ugly. Ugly means you push your mate away, basically. How does the dove have like these handcuffs or something that I don't know. Does the dove force the person to be in a relationship? No. She's looking gazingly. Interestingly, the role of the Kala in the relationship is one, women in general, they're not allowed to articulate the need for a union or the desire for. They're not allowed to articulate that verbally. It's done. It says if you'll get children who are Talmidei Chachamim, if it's done beremez, and it explains what that means, cosmetics and all that. Okay, that's what it says. I found it in a Balaturim, but I think it's brought in Shulchan Aruch. That's fascinating. But the idea is, how do you get attention? Does the dove say? The dove doesn't say you can't be. She doesn't say that. She says he won't want to. It's like, okay, look up Maras Hatzeves. The whole thing, what that was about. I'm more valuable on the shidduch scene than you. Each one saying to the other, I'm more beautiful than you, they're saying. What does that mean? That's how I interpreted it. That's a type of gazing and saying, you know what? I'm going to captivate you completely. Why? I'm going to be that person. And it's the beauty of the eyes. Everyone has beautiful eyes, okay? What does it mean? It explains why Leah didn't have beautiful eyes like Rachel did. It explains why. She suffered. She had trauma. Or she had a fear of the future, anxiety, I guess. It's more accurate. She had some type of anxiety of her destiny. She didn't want to, she was afraid to face her destiny. Ultimately, she didn't have to. It was, a Jew is above the Mazel, Ein Mazel Yisrael. And we say in Chassidus, Ayin Mazel Yisrael. The level of Hashem that's beyond, the crown. The lion lifts up its tail like a crown over its head, and you have to be the tail of the lion, says in Pirkei Avos. Okay, I'm talking about something here that had nothing to do with my main thing I want to get to. It's the same topic, okay, but I'm just like, okay, I'm looking at the clock. Okay, it's all right. So it gives an analogy. It doesn't say the flip side, but I explain a possible flip side of it. The ugly-eyed person means it's not captivating. You're not looking up to God in the spiritual sense, because it also resonates in terms of interpersonal relationships. But in terms of the religious, I don't say religious, more specific, divine devotion to God. Okay, the way that's expressed in a more abstract way, more spiritualized way, is by turning to God and saying, look, I want to do your mitzvahs. I'm going to gaze at you. What you want is important to me. That's a type of gazing. And that's the captivation that I think Rashi says is the analogy here. What the meaning of the analogy, rather, is. That a dove captivates its mate, and he doesn't go anywhere else. Think about the beauty of that. Okay, but then it goes on. Similarly, and all the sons of Levi gathered around him, and they did not err with the golden calf. They gathered around, I guess, Moshe, because they were going to be the judges for the Jewish people with regard to the golden calf, to the unfaithful. Okay, this is talking about the ugly part. Okay, there you go. So it goes on to give the flip side of the interpretation in terms of having to be a judge. They killed people. I think it was like, 3,500 people or so that worshiped directly. They were warned. I don't know if it was more than that. But each Levi had a role in this. They had to pursue even their half siblings, brothers rather, or maybe siblings, who worshiped the golden calf. So in other words, they were unfaithful to God. They made a marriage ceremony and they were immediately unfaithful. So the flip side of it is this vengeance and a sort of justice more. Okay. it's the idea of, did I push you away type thing? And so they did err the golden. Another explanation, Hine Yafa, behold, you are beautiful through the construction of the Mishkan, as the tabernacle in the desert. As it stated, behold, they had done it, and Moshe blessed them. He praised them for that. Okay, that's what it means, the gaze of doves. It's basically saying, what's the second one? It's the beauty of a tabernacle, of an intimate environment with devoted to God. In there's so many restrictions, and there's so much. It's chedrei chadarim, it's the lifnai v'lifnim, the most intimate experience with God, and that's when all the rules come out. Like, okay, you can have the krovim, yeah, you can have cherubs in there, but they have to be a specific way. You do it any different, that's a completely an infidelity, that deepest level. Okay, that's the Shir Shirim, the dove thing. The Tanya, I also wanted to speak. It would have taken me half an hour to do it properly, but it actually has this dove theme, and maybe will be a nice segue. So let's just do a little bit of it. It starts with the whole idea of if you plant righteousness, you give charity, you get salvation. Salvation means you're in a threat and you're redeemed from that threat. So there's a threat of a person being immersed in their very materialistic world, and prayer takes you out of that through the power of charity. Okay, and the two things are connected. It says that, who was it? Rabbi Eliezer Yahiv Pruto La'ani V'Hader Matzle. Rabbi Eliezer, the Tana, would give a coin to a pauper, and then he would pray. As it says, I'm with righteousness, I'm going to behold your face. So you want to get the attention of God, you want to get his face? Befriend another person, show that you care about another person. Perish Kigilu. Meaning, what does it mean in a spiritual sense, this whole idea? Giving to a pauper before you die so that you can have your prayers be heard. Because the revelation of godliness, may he be blessed, that's revealed in someone's thought. An Adam, a person that has shleimus. We'll look at that more in a different context about shleimus. Just trying to think if I can remember the point of it exactly. Maybe it will come to me later. So the idea of revealing that in your intent, in davening, your desire to connect to God through your words, and the meaningful interpretation, and even the literal level of interpretation in the words of Perish and Milas, everyone at their own level. You just do what you can do, okay? Each person, it's a different, Eliyahu Navi has a different davening than you, maybe. The great revelation of God that exists in heaven, to the extent that all the worlds are totally nullified before this revelation of godliness. You don't recognize any identity besides him. How do you identify? And anyway, talks about where the angels live. Okay, what this about? How this is manifest in the spiritual worlds. From there, you have light, godly light that makes it to this world. So, and that is not just, that's called Yagia Choshki. This happens in davening, from the service of your heart, called prayer. And that's the meaning of the words, that you brighten up the darkness of my world. Through davening, that's what's happening. God extends light and blessings into your world. So this descent is called Chesed Hashem. It's undeserved. Because God just doesn't give only Mida Keneged Mida. That is an expression of Gvura. If you get what you deserve, that's what you deserve. If you work, you expect to get paid for that. And we say Neman Bal Malachtecha, your taskmaster or your employer is faithful to pay you. That's Hashem's Gvura. And in fact, there's things that would prevent God to shine, because there is an aspect of Gvura that does that not prevent God from shining into you physically? Okay, maybe in heaven, where godliness is revealed more, but Gvura is more manifest here in the physical world. So how am I going to have godliness manifest in the world? And not only just a shine that exists in heaven, but God's very essential, Aaron safe, okay, the actual light of God, not just a reflection of that, like from the moon is a reflection of light, okay? It's an analogy for it. So this is the injustice in the world to the side of kindness. That's the chesed of Hashem. We do a little chesed in this world, and God shines in us in this world. Not just we have to give of ourselves, so it's a little bit like I gave a bit, so you give a bit of spiritual, because it's difficult for me who's material to be material. So I'm guided by spiritual advice, which is not in my best interest to eat non-kosher and things like that. So I'm making a spiritual move, so I should get a spiritual reward. Why am I blessed physically for that? That's the chasdei Hashem. That's brought about through when we have unity, when we care about another person. Then Hashem says, "Okay, I'm going to care about you." It's like you went out of your boundaries to accept someone, welcome someone else into your world. God's going to say, "I'm infinite and like the real thing, and you're like a matrix next to me, but I love you because I see such goodness in you, and I'm going to let that goodness shine through, and I'm not going to pay attention to any of your faults, like the dove eyes. Draw that out so you don't examine the rest of the person even." And that's how you captivate the other, right? Okay. But this happens through tefillah, and this brings you to the level of tshuva ilah. You want to connect to God. You want to just to get closer to God. Tshuva ilah. You want to leave all your limitations. We said yesterday you have to negate heaven and earth, and then all heaven and earth has meaning, because now you do it for Hashem. It's completely different heaven and earth. It's the Shemayim v'aretz hakadoshim. Okay, it's going to be a new heavens and earth. This is my interpretation of that. The whole world, heavens and earth, have new meaning, because the ultimate is going to be expressed specifically in the physicality of the world. Okay, it gives an analogy of a seed. When you plant the seed, it doesn't have taste, it doesn't have smell that you can't eat, it doesn't really sustain you very much, but you plant that and it totally nullifies itself to the powers of the earth, and it brings out a very powerful process of productivity, where a tree comes forth and you have fruits, and the fruits have seeds, and it goes on and on. The fruits themselves have taste and smell, and they sustain you, and they have a positive effect. They lift your spirits. You can make wine out of it. Other things that are in consumables. So you get an infinite, that's the chasdei Hashem that exists in that process. And it stems from the idea of planting, which it comes about through self-nullification, because the seed totally nullifies itself. Okay, now that process, let's just say that that's the matzmiach yeshuas. That is Mashiach, let's say. So you go about this process that I just described, and now you're going to be doing what the Rebbe said is required of us now, is that we have to bring Mashiach. Okay, so what does that mean? The Rebbe writes himself a week later, after he says it's our job to be Mashiach, he puts all the burden upon our shoulders. The week after that, he says not only that, but it's not going to happen. Mashiach ben David is not going to sit on the throne, probably. Hopefully he will. I shouldn't wait for anything. The Rebbe says many, many times, there's nothing holding it back. So I don't mean that it's a direct contradiction, but I'm saying it has to happen first by the individual. That individual revelation of the nitzutz of Mashiach, the spark of Mashiach within a person, that can happen on a global scale instantly, okay? And I have sources for that. I told you about Eliyahu Navi. I'm going to get back to that right now, actually. One source for it. In fact, this is the Rebbe's Hasidic source. He brings it at Yerushalmi, I believe. That's the source, I think, for the liturgy that we say on Yom Tov, when we're opening the Pesikas Aaron, when we open up the Ark, and before the Sefer Torahs. We ask Hashem to reveal basically the spark of Mashiach in us, and the sources, we say that basically. The things that we say in Mashiach, we say that should be revealed in me. We say that in that part of our prayer. A special time when there's a lot of joy in Yom Tov. But the Hasidic source for this is, in other words, this idea is articulated in mystical terms and spiritual terms. This is the source for it. The Mor Naim of Parshas Pinchas, towards the end of Parshas Pinchas. I spoke about it before at length, so I'm going to jump in the middle. The actual part that the Rebbe is quoting, because I led up to that a little bit. Okay? But now I want to focus on that, because I want to write about it like today and tomorrow. So I got to understand it, and you help me understand it. Al ken tzarei kol echad Yisrael. These are the words that the Rebbe is referring to. Okay? This is the most directly associated, but then he expands on it and explains how it relates to Eliyahu Navi. I'll be right back. Stop. I should wait for you. I could, just chill out for a minute. I think this is worthy of just meditation of what we're gonna experience here. Okay, I lost one or two people, but it's okay. One day someone's gonna slice this all up. into like digestibles, digestive cookies. That's a good name for it. If you make like 3-minute segments of these digestive cookies, things that you could more. Nobody has the patience to sit here or the time to sit here and listen to some guy that's sitting in his car before davening. Anyways, it's worth it to hang around to get to this point, because here it talks about the Rebbe's source, this idea that every single Jew must prepare his portion of the aspect of Mashiach that corresponds to the part of his soul, l'chelik nishmasei, the part of his soul. Okay, probably that's talking about the yechida in each person's soul, the highest level of his soul. But it really means here more specifically that everybody's soul is like a chelik. It's a portion of a l'chelik nishmasei. It's a portion to his soul, okay? Or his soul is a branch of a much greater body of the Jewish people. But his individual soul, in the general sense, his consciousness, where he's holding, everything about him, his mindset, everything. Good morning. He has to prepare that and establish it. No, sorry. Here it says he has to prepare his portion. That's the portion of Mashiach that relates to his soul. Until he corrects and prepares the entire stature of Mashiach within him. And then you will have an ongoing union. Okay, we've spoken about this idea in many different concepts. In Yichud Avo and Yichud Zun, the two types of unity. What Yichud Avo is constant, it's the love of rain. Abbas Reim, I think it says. It's constant, it's ongoing. Whereas Yichud Zun, the low level of unity, which is the midas of Hashem, the divine attributes of Hashem, and Malchus, which is very difficult to describe in one sentence. But that basically means your experience of your identity in the process of intermittent dieting. No, intermittent union. Unions with your food. You have intermittent unions, and that union that's an elevation. You realize that you see yourself in the other. In this case, it's talking about you seeing yourself in Hashem, and it's a process. It's a yearning. That's intermittent, therefore it brings out yearning. So that yearning we say here in this context, because it doesn't really mention that here, but the same idea is discussed. It describes Eliyahu Navi. Elijah the prophet is going to mavasar ha'geula. He's going to proclaim the redemption. And that proclamation here we describe as the awakening of the soul. Good morning. The awakening of the soul is his proclamation, is heralding the redemption. It's an enhanced sensitivity to an identity of you existing within the other, which is God. So it's a realization of who you are, which is your soul, essentially. You want to express your soul in a body. And that's called the union of thought and speech, which is prayer and davening. Okay, and it goes on to explain that. And it associates the word Mashiach with Dibur, because the word Messiach lifi tumoy. He talks innocently, just by the way he mentioned something and revealed something. It's Messiach lifi tumoy. Or that Yitzchak came from Lasuach Basadeh. He was praying, articulating his love of God, or he was doubting for Shidduch and other interpretations, who came at that moment, okay? He's facing the east. And the Shekhinah came from the east in the form of Rivka, which is awesome. So Mashiach means speech. She'asiach ha'asias, to speak the words of Tefillah and Torah. Oh my goodness, I thought I said Siri, and Siri came up. Oh my goodness, go away. Sorry about that. Interrupted by a machine. Mashav Messiach is a dibur. So thought, so there's this connection to the unity that comes from the Tshuk of Eliyahu, that's going to proclaim and be the forerunner to Mashiach, which is the union of thought and speech, meaning meaningful speech, prayer, getting close to Hashem through learning Torah also. So Mashiach means Messiah. It brings out, so Messiah also means it draws out. One second, I want to say one other line again. It means both, sorry. It means both speech and thought. In other words, what's the connection and what does Mashiach mean? It's like the anointing it also means, which is a nice idea. It says, there's a verse in Tehillim that speaks about anointing Aaron, and the oil that was, I believe, on his head fell down to his beard, and it describes that. And it goes over his mouth, I guess, too, right? His beard. But it doesn't, I haven't read that interpretation. It's just it's nice. It's an image that resonates, that comes from the Torah. Ki Mashiach hu lashon dibur v'hamachshava. Oh, sorry, I read it wrong again. So I read it right the first time. Ki Mashiach hu lashon dibur v'hamachshava Masiach es dibur. Thought brings out speech. It's the muse of speech. Sheyasiach es ha'asias. That it brings out the letters. Okay, so I think I read it right this time. So the first time and the third time I read it right. The second time I think I read it wrong. I put the period in the wrong place. Ki Mashiach hu lashon dibur. Period. V'hamachshava Masiach es dibur. It's the muse, thought, your ideas, your contemplation, your meditations that you hopefully you're going on a bit of meditation journey while I'm saying all this. That's the point of what I'm trying to do. V'hamachshava Masiach es dibur. It's the muse of speech. Sheyasiach es ha'asias. V'lakach b'chol eis shu yichud ha'machshava dibur. So then, anytime you have this union of thought and speech, hu tikkun mechinas Mashiach. That is the correction of the aspect of Mashiach. But right now it's intermittent. That, and when Mashiach comes, it's going to be constant. So the moments of inspiration you have will be constant. You'll be always charged like a lion. You might have to eat more potatoes. I don't know. It's like, I think it says about the Giborim, right? That you have to eat a lot, which it's a whole process, Says the Yitush is the most selfish of all the creatures because it doesn't excrete anything. So that shows it doesn't participate in the whole process, the whole communication of the world, from the whole chaining down process. It said the angels, the Lamborghini in this world is angel excrement, Hasidim say. And then it goes on to speak about Nadav Avihu. It's really Gishmak. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Maybe that's what we'll start with tomorrow. It gives a beautiful Rosh Tevis. Ana Hashem Hashiana. Ana, please God, save me. Because now we're talking about Yeshua, salvation. We spoke before that meant against someone that could be a threat to you or harm. So that salvation from that. Ana Hashem Hashiana, save me. Or that's, Hatzlichana. Here it is. Ana Hashem Hashiana, it's the Rebbe's capital actually. Ana Rosh Tevis Eliyahu Nadav Avihu, because they're one soul. Nadav Avihu got the soul of Eliyahu Navi, or sorry, it's vice versa. Nadav Avihu gave their souls. Eliyahu Navi got their souls. Ibur Neshama. Okay. Here it says right here. Okay, it doesn't say exactly what I wanted to read right now. Okay, but then it speaks about peace. B'derech neistim le'shalom. B'derech neistim le'shalom k'nei demashkas b'zayar kodesh k'shadam hu b'derech zivuga ilah is daveg behade. Shu gam ken lechinas hahei v'nasa gam yichud v'haven. Okay, it says the Eliyahu is the Rosh Tevis Aleph Lamed Kale, the God's name, God's kindness, the Chesed that we spoke about earlier, and Vav K, Yud K Vav, the names, the letters of God's name. So Kel, it says there represents Hashem. It's the last name of Hashem, the last letter of Hashem's name, Yud K Vav K, which is the second Hey, which is usually Malchus. It's connecting that with the higher three levels. So that's the Yichud Zun probably. and it's going to be constant. So Eliyahu Navi is the one who brings out this force, and there's a Zohar that speaks about that when he has a spiritual union, he connects the lower hay with these higher three letters rather. Okay, so it goes on and on. It's very long. It's very good. It's very good shmak. Maybe I'll spend a few days on this. I just wanted to write about that one part that I started with here from that Maranayim, because that's the part that's the Rebbe's source. It speaks about a chelek. The Rebbe calls it a nitzitz Mashiach. He calls it a chelek Mashiach, a shayach l'nishmasei, that relates to that person's soul. So everybody has a part of Mashiach that relates to his or her soul, and the ultimate perfection and wholeness is when you sort of reveal that, and then it expresses itself eventually. I don't know at what point, maybe when 1, 2, 3 people, like the Rebbe said in the Sikha a week prior to this, the Sikha where he quotes this. He said 1, 2, 3 people could be who are stubborn enough to do something about it and bring Mashiach. It says 10 earlier in that Sikha, 10 people. Then he says even 1, 2, 3. What does it mean 1, 2, 3? Why not just 1 or 3? One person. It's all about you. And you're going to inspire the 2 and the 3 people around you, and you have like a billiards ball set up, the formation, the pyramid formation that you just set in motion, everything, a chain reaction. Okay, so thanks everyone for tuning in again. You bring out the words. You don't realize how much, and I can't thank you enough. So maybe I'll say it every time. It's like, that's part of my whole ceremony aspect of the speech. You should thank you for bringing out things that I just need. You help me so much. If I get an editorial a week out of this, even if it's just one, if that's the cream of whatever I come up with, I think that's in your zchus, because you allow me to explore ideas that fascinate me, and I'm forced on the spot to understand it in a much deeper way and relate it to other things that I'm learning. Because I usually start with a Yom Yom Tanya. Those are just the things you got to learn before davening. I think it's like a natural thing to do before you daven. So I try and see something in it. I feel like it's a nice path that you could be led on by the Rebbe, because the Rebbe instituted this, the Frierdiker Rebbe actually. The Rebbe promoted it very much. It's like the bread and butter of a Lubavitcher Chassid is doing chitas. So a Yom Yom and Tanya, I think that's before davening. Let that be your inspiration for whatever you're going to learn. It doesn't just have to be the parsha. The parsha is fantastic. You're supposed to live with the times, live with the parsha. Yes. The Hasidic interpretation of that is learn the Likutei Torah that's relevant to each parsha, each portion of the Torah. Have a blessed day to you too. Maybe I'll end on that note.